Thank you for joining me back here for another video. This one should be relatively short. This is a question and answer video. And the question that came to me, it's actually a very good question, one that even a lot of Jews who, maybe they're not the most Orthodox Jews out there, maybe they're not the most observant Jews out there, but even they have the same question. And the question is, why is meat from a non-kosher slaughterhouse not kosher? And that's a good question, so let's talk about that for a minute. Certain animals like a cow, beef is kosher, lamb is kosher, sheep, goat is kosher. Goat is delicious, and it's also kosher. Chicken, kosher. So what if you go to a store and you see, beef, lamb, venison even is kosher. Most species of antelope are kosher. In fact, I think all species, but I'm going to say most just to cover myself. Otherwise, I'm going to get some angry, somebody, oh, you can't say that all are kosher. Well, of course I can. I might be wrong, but I absolutely can. The not restaurants, why do I keep saying that? The supermarkets, they're all going to have meats, unless you're in a place where meat is not eaten, like California maybe. I don't know. I don't know of any place where meat's not eaten. Even fish, although fish technically is not slaughtered, but that's not important. You go to the supermarket, you find something that's, that is a clean animal. It's a cow, it's a sheep, it's a chicken, it's a goat, it's a deer, it's a moose. It's a giraffe is a kosher animal. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know how you would slaughter it properly, but it is a kosher animal. It is a clean animal. Why would you kill a giraffe? I don't know, but is what it is. So you've got all these different animals that you could find in a supermarket, except for maybe giraffe and maybe moose and probably deer, but that's not important. You're probably not going to find most antelopes. Those are game animals. But they're not labeled as kosher in the supermarket. Why? Well, the answer is because they were not processed in a kosher manner. Okay, so what is the kosher manner? Well, it starts with the slaughter. So a kosher slaughter is done a very specific way. It's slitting of the arteries in the neck in just sort of, and it bleeds out. The drop of, it sounds very violent. And I suppose from, the perspective of someone who loves animals, like most people do, it could be traumatizing to see. However, it's not as painful as it might look. They basically lose consciousness, and for all intents and purposes, they are essentially dead the second their arteries in the neck have been slit. Why? Because there's an immediate drop in blood pressure. They can't feel any pain anymore. It's like less than a second of any sort of pain, and even then, that pain is not even fully, real. It's just a cold feeling for a second, and the reason for that is because the blade used for making that cut is extremely sharp. It has no nicks on the blade whatsoever. It's extremely sharp, and it has to be, otherwise it's not a kosher slaughter. And the knife is inspected in between every single slaughter, because you have to make sure that the blade is maintained. So you test it on your fingernail, you test it on the webbing between your hands, which is a phrase I never thought I'd actually use out loud. To determine, is this going to cut or is this going to tear? Is this going to pull at the skin? Will it slice through it, or will it pull on it or sort of tear the skin? Because if it does either of those, it's not a kosher slaughter, and the animal, you've just killed it in vain, and it's like you've murdered it. Um, and for those of you who may be vegan or vegetarian, that's fine. Um, there's nothing wrong with that. Uh, if you're doing it for ethical reasons, there's certainly nothing wrong with it. Um, but you need to be aware that there are so many precautions that we go to ensure that this animal suffers as little as possible after the slaughter of the animal. Now, how do I know this? Well, it's all going to be in the Mishneh Torah, and I will, when I'm editing this, I will put the uh, uh, tractate. I guess it's the wrong word, but I'll put the book of laws. That the Rambam mentions it. I'll put that on the screen so you can read it yourself. It's very plainly written. I've also been trained to do it. After the animal has been bled out. Okay, so that's when things get a little bit yucky. So I'm going to avoid going over the nitty-gritty details. Let's just say that once you have butchered this animal, whatever it may be, you salt all exposed sides of the meat, and you let it be salted for about a half hour. You rinse the salt off, and that is to draw out any kind of blood that may still be in the meat, any kind of anything that's perhaps gooey, I guess is a good way to say it, on the meat. And then you take it, and at that point it's okay. It's kosher, assuming everything meets with the rigorous standards of a kosher slaughter. Because in order for this animal to be able to be consumed, you have to inspect the organs. You have to inspect the heart, the lungs, the internal organs and everything, and you're doing a necropsy on it. You're making sure that which is an autopsy, but for an animal, necropsy. But it's because autopsy means to see oneself. Necropsy is to see the dead. But let's not get into that. Where was I going with that? I don't even remember anymore. Oh yeah. So after an animal has been slaughtered the kosher way, you have to inspect its internal organs. Would this animal have died on its own within a year's time, roughly? If the answer is yes, it's not kosher. You can sell it to a non-kosher slaughterhouse. You can sell it to your non-Jewish neighbor. You can sell it to a Muslim. In fact, in general, the majority of halachic works actually say that you should sell it to the Arabs because they'll eat it, because it is halal for them. It's not kosher, but it is halal. Assuming the organs are in relatively decent condition, assuming that the animal is determined would not have died of its own within a year or so, and that includes things like lesions on it, or tumors, or things that indicate that it was diseased. If it is diseased, you probably shouldn't even sell it to anybody. You should probably just burn it, because nobody wants a diseased animal. Nobody wants to eat it anyway. Nobody wants a diseased animal, period. But assuming it checks, this necropsy checks out, okay, then you get to salting the meat. Once the meat has been salted, then you can sell it. Then you can, obviously it's got to be butchered and everything properly. You've got to, remove the veins and the sinews and the fats and, all these different, only certain kinds of fats, all these different things that you have to do. The whole process, it's going to take you most of the day, which is probably actually why you see in Genesis chapter 18 where Abraham has these three visitors show up. It's probably why he gave him cheese while he sent, the boy, it says, Ishmael, is, according to tradition, he sent Ishmael to slaughter the animal and prepare it before cooking it, because it would take the majority of the day. So, why is food from a non-kosher slaughterhouse not kosher, even if it's from an animal that we know is kosher? Well, the answer is very simply because there is no way to guarantee that it was slaughtered in a kosher manner. There's no guarantee that the meat is not diseased. I hate to say that because now the USDA and FDA and other letter agencies are going to jump on me and say, "Oh, why would you imply that we sell diseased meat?" I'm not. Although in some places they do. I've heard that in some African countries the meat is not necessarily clean, so that you could very well run into that issue in certain African countries, certain lesser developed African countries. But the reason that if it says it's not, or if it doesn't say that it's kosher, the reason that we just can't eat it, the reason that it's not kosher is very simply because we do have standards. We have very high standards, and if it's not certified kosher, if it's not, if it doesn't tell you that it is kosher, then it is not meant to be consumed by us because we have rules that others don't have. So if you see kosher meat in the supermarket and it says it's kosher, that's what it's gone through. It's gone through a kosher slaughter. It's gone through an after-death inspection of the animal to ensure that it was healthy at the time of its death. It goes through a salting, deveining, desinuing, assuming that's a word, and stripping of certain fats from the animal. It goes through that process before it finally ever gets to the supermarket to be sold. Now, if you're a shochet, if you are a ritual slaughterer, if you're someone who ritually slaughters a kosher animal, so you know all of this stuff. If you're not, okay, so you learned something. That's cool. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you have not already subscribed and turned on the notifications for this channel, go ahead and do that. It helps me, I guarantee you. If you have not found me on Facebook, go do that. Go, just search an unorthodox Jew. Search it, you'll find me, I guarantee it. Go ahead and like and or follow the page. Drop by, say howdy. If you have questions, I'm free to answer questions most of the time. If I'm not free at the moment, well, I'll get to I'll get back to you eventually, I'm sure, because I don't let if somebody asks a question, I don't let it go. I just maybe I can't get to it immediately, and that's fine. I'm going to respond to you within a couple of days. Any sincere question will be answered. And who knows, it may make the subject of another video. So, that being said, I am done. And until next time, shalom.